So the project we just finished was Mark's Fairlane. Awesome car, really good car, old school. It's got everything going for it. Really cool cruiser car. Only thing letting it down was basically the power. You know, dirty old 302 Windsor. Good motors, but nothing beats the sound of a turbo V8. So we threw in my old 1UZ from Microcedar. Did a lot of things to it over the time. It was a very long process, but we got there in the end, made some stout power and does awesome skids.
This wasn't my first turbo V8, so I had a pretty good idea of what to do. We've done quite a few 1UZs in particular. The only thing I really wanted to achieve with this is to keep the car looking old school. So from the outside you can't even tell that it's got a modern engine in it or that it's turbo. The intercooler and everything's all hidden behind the grille, which was quite a feat. The other things we've learnt is they can overheat if you're thrashing them. So we went straight for the biggest radiator we could possibly fit in there, which is very effective. It's flat out getting over 90 degrees Celsius, which is pretty good when you're thrashing them. Otherwise, we just pretty much followed the formula. The thing with this sort of project is you're just making it up as you go along, because you've got to fit the engine before you know where anything else can fit. Then you've got to think about how many things are got to go into the space, so you've got to sort of map it out in your head, and then you've got to go through the process, and you will change directions, because that's what you have to do sometimes along the way. So you just keep at it. And
no different to any other gnarly things you've done in the shed before, though?
Not really. Every car's different, but you unless you've done that exact thing before, it's always working it out as you go along. We've built a lot of cars in this shed since I've had it. Obviously the Stagia was probably a bit of a pilot for what we're doing now, but this is the first car that me and Woody have sort of built and documented. So it's good to see feedback from people on YouTube and on Facebook and Instagram, whatever. We think we're doing the right thing, and I guess sometimes people have to think about it in context. It's a bit hard for people to tell where we are and what this is, but this is basically my home garage. It's albeit a pretty fancy one. So we're not programming CNC machines to make parts and stuff. Everything that we make is made out of commonly available, easy to get bits. Everything is done for practicality. If it doesn't need to be fancy, it's not going to be, because it doesn't make the car work. I've built a lot of cars over the years, and I know what breaks, and things do break, and I know what makes them fail, and that's the way that we do things. Might not make sense in the context of like a world porn website or something like that, but that stuff's art. It's ugly because it's practical and it works, and it stays working for a long time. It's not going to fatigue or anything like that. So it's a bit hard to explain to people why we make log manifolds and why they can't get why that works, but it does. And you have to, you really got to listen to what's being said, because every manufacturer will make a manifold like that. We're welding it up. Theirs would all be cast iron, most likely, but I mean, that's obviously a scale, an economies of scale thing, but things like that it's just how it's done. And we look at the automotive industry, we look at the manufacturers, and that's how we come to the conclusions of what works and why it works, and then we go from there. And I've been doing that ever since I started working on cars, 25 years or something. So that's the way I think of it. So keep an open mind, kids.
Being a mechanic by trade, it's kind of good to have the knowledge of what to film and knowing what I'm looking at. And it's easier to kind of pick up a camera and be behind the lens and press record, but to actually know what's going on and to know when to film things and how long to film things for is a huge learning process, really. You know, we make things time and time again, and it does work or it doesn't work. So there's a few times in the episodes where things will jump from half made to completely finished, and on the video it takes 2 seconds, but really that's taken us 2 hours. I mean, look, I love it. I love being behind the camera. I also love working with Al. We've been mates for God knows how many years now, but still are good mates. There's a few tiffs here and there when he gets angry at me for pointing the camera in his face all the time, but that's what happens.
And you paparazzo!
Yeah. But I absolutely love the build. It was an awesome thing to do, and looking forward to do some more projects in the future. You just got to find the time to do it. Obviously, I've got another job, so it's hard for me to come in here every day and then bail out and go to my other job and be up at 12 o'clock every night editing videos, but you just got to get it done to produce the content. So a lot of comments on there saying, you know, great stuff, and a lot of people saying they love it, and it really means a lot to hear the thanks, because really we're both here doing these videos, and it's awesome to get that good feedback too. So there's a few problems throughout the build. First problem being, actually, in my eyes, is Al was just fully transforming the shed throughout the video. So you can probably notice at the start there's a rocky driveway and a single wonky hoist, and over time we get the new bend packs, and then we've got a fresh driveway laid out the front. So in between all the filming that's happening, there's guys out here in the sun laying concrete, or the guys installing the hoists. Equipment upgrades. Al upgraded to a bandsaw there halfway between two, which was an epic decision. That thing's just amazing to use. But build-wise with the car, there was a few problems, starting with first one really being major one would be the tail shaft, yeah?
That was a pretty major one, yeah. So, yeah, the tail shaft failure was sort of a miscommunication between me and the tail shaft shop, as in they neglected to hear the bit where I said it was a 450 horsepower turbo V8. They basically just made a very, very run-of-the-mill tail shaft, and were incredibly apologetic about it afterwards when I informed them that it wasn't the greatest. So that was when we just changed it to a two-piece tail shaft, because it was quite a long shaft, and that is prone to failure. Obviously, it makes them more prone to failure the longer the tube is. So we upgraded it to a two-piece shaft, and I just had to remake the tunnel mount.
Not to mention the
worst part of it was the damage it caused underneath the car. Yeah. So it knocked around old Cox exhaust pretty badly and ripped a few brake lines out, and so we had to repair that along the way. But you know,
big hole in the floor. Stuff
like this happens. That's the first time I've ever had a tail shaft failure, so it was a pretty big surprise. I know of other people that it's happened to, but it's never happened to me, and I've done heaps of engine conversions, so it was a bit exciting. But you know, we worked through it. It was, by that time we were just like, the car was finished basically, and then we had to fix all that damage. So we got through that. Next problem was the car was stopping when you were driving it. We did a wedding for a mate in it, and it would just sort of stop, and that was what it used to do the whole time. So like
had the bride and the bridesmaids in the car heading out to the wedding, it conked out. Everyone's looking at me going, well, what's happening here?
But then it would go again.
It just
ran, exactly what it used to do when it had a 302 in it. So but by this time we were thinking, why did we bother doing all this work? Because it's still breaking down.
So basically, anyway, the only thing we didn't change was a fuel tank.
There was a fuel tank. So even though we had it like acid cleaned, it was just rusty, and the scale continued to be released like by the fuel. We had ethanol in it as well, which probably helped that along, and it would just suck lots of little bits of scale up onto the filter inside the tank and block it, and then the car would stop. Then it'd sit for 20 minutes, and all that stuff would just fall down to the bottom, and off you'd go again, and then it continued. So eventually I just kept driving it and was pulling over on the side of the road and climbing underneath the car and pulling fuel lines off and stuff like that, and we figured out what it was. So we did what we should have done in the first place, which is just buy a brand new fuel tank, and at that stage we went, it's on E85, so let's get the big one. So we put a GDHO fuel tank in it.
It's like 100 litre or something, is it?
130 litres, yeah, so right. It's almost enough for it to get down the shops on E85. So yeah, once that was in, the tail shaft was in, it's run like a charm ever since. It's really a great car to drive. It's just easy. It's easy to drive fast on a racetrack as well. It's just effortless. The only thing you got to really worry about is leaning forward enough to click it into the next gear. It's pretty fast, especially for a car that size and of that style.
I think pretty fast is an understatement. It's bloody quick. The 40 doesn't do it justice. It's just absolutely, and it's deceivingly light too. It's not a heavy car.
It's not as big a car as it is. A big car, but it's an old car, so people think old cars are
weigh 3 tons.
Yeah, but they don't. They're actually pretty light because they don't have any safety equipment or creature comforts, which add a lot of weight to the cars. And we've also got an aluminium engine and transmission in it that we didn't used to have. So yeah, it's not that heavy a car for the power it's got. So yeah, that equals good performance. But brakes, good.
Even the turbo V8 drivability is awesome because you can drive it off boost all day long. You got the power there to putt along, easy as. Fuel economy is obviously not the best thing, and that's the sacrifice you got to make when you have so much power. But to then put your foot down and have 450 horsepower on tap, literally with a click of your fingers, is epic. It's just awesome. And it hooks up too. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't really.
It's not It's not scary to drive. It's easy to drive, which is good. But it's got one of the questions I got asked a lot was, what about brakes and suspension upgrades? We did all that. The suspension was already upgraded, apart from the rear leaf springs, before it got here.
And there's big wheel woods on it.
And it put discs on the back and big wheel woods on the front, so it pulls up really well. And it's got good tyres on it, and that's one of the most important things to have on a fast car, is to have good tyres on it. And I'm not talking about new tyres, I'm talking about good ones, like grippy, like semi-slick type tyres. They're not expensive anymore. So if you don't want to die in your fast car, get some good tyres.
Wrapping it up, the build really took 6 months plus. Obviously Al's running a business here too, so he's doing customer jobs in between, and I was in the corner working away, just tripoding shots and get as much footage as I can to document it all. Weekly release was something that we come up with just to kind of keep it steady and ongoing, and it gives us enough time to obviously edit the videos up and kind of keep on doing projects in the meantime. We're already in the process of doing another pretty epic build. Got a couple of Nissans coming up for you. So apart from that, we've definitely got some more stuff coming. I want to do a few little technical videos in between with Al, kind of explaining a few things here and there. Al's mentioned his cram, which will one day definitely be on the Skid Factory. I've got myself something coming up which is going to hopefully a lot of people enjoy also. But just want to say thanks to everyone, obviously, that watching it. Love the support. We're getting heaps of good responses for it. So if you like what you're seeing, make sure you tell your friends about it, tell your mum, tell your sister. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. We're obviously all over there, constantly uploading photos and videos. So subscribe to us, keep on watching, and we've got some epic stuff coming up for you guys.
Get away from me, pokey bumwang.
Sweaty.
No.
You stink too.
Are you new to this?
Yeah. Nope.
Have we not met before?